Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hallowed Be Thy Game. Ren here, and if you're a fan of RPGs and all things gaming, discussions about the games we all know and love, then you've definitely found a friend in this channel. I post at least one time a week on topics ranging from pickups videos, new releases, to just the games that have reached hallowed status in my heart. So thank you so much for watching, and today we're going to be talking about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Let's get started. Before we get into today's video, I want to give you some slight spoiler warnings. There will be no party spoilers, and there will definitely not be any story spoilers. However, given the nature of abilities in the game, there will be some ability spoilers, also some armor spoilers, and the locations I show are anywhere from the beginning of the game to about halfway. So if that's something of concern to you, then you've been warned. Thanks again. Characters in Xenoblade Chronicles. This is one of the absolute main staples of this game that helps sell it for me. Parties for me can either make or break a game. You have characters and their interactions like in Persona 4 and 5 and in Tales of Vesperia. Even though there may be parts of like Tales of Vesperia that I'm not super crazy about, without a doubt that party and that cast and those leading characters carry the story in parts that I would otherwise maybe feel a little bored or feel repetitive. Not to say anything negative about those games, but in Xenoblade Chronicles, it's just the same. You have a game that's well over 60 hours long. What helps you take you from point A to B from the moment you start the game to when the credits finally roll? And that's when you care about the characters. When we first meet Shulk and Rhine, we immediately know that they've had their petty squabbles, but they accept each other, and their broship is something that hits you and it connects with you on a very base level. You know these two, no matter what, by the end of the game, win or lose, they'll continue to be friends. So there's not anything in this game that's going to jeopardize that, which gives the creative team more liberties to focus on more existential threats than just petty squabbles. You know, as Shulk and Rhine meet the other members of the cast, there's a prevailing theme as each character meets and joins the group, and that's that they're all established, confident characters. They don't mess around with just the typical JRPG tropes, which I am guilty of absolutely loving, but there's no denying that their friendship is real and believable. You know, when the world and everybody's existence is at stake, they're not worried about finding their meaning in life. They're not worried about being accepted. They already know they're accepted. They already know their purpose, and everybody's working together for that common goal. And that rings true throughout the story. And that's what made this 100-hour playthrough whiz by. In other games, when you play maybe 10, 20 hours, you know, by the time the credits roll, you feel like, okay, that was a complete experience, and now I'm done. But the characters of Xenoblade Chronicles, they don't just want your attention or demand it, they earn it, and you absolutely want to see them succeed and be happy. The story of Xenoblade Chronicles is one that is a tale as old as time. And it's one that we can all relate to. We've all been at that place where life has dealt us a bad hand and we want revenge. We want justice. And that's where Shulk and Rhine begin this story. But we see over this tale of fighting titans and fighting the impossible and always working towards a brighter future with setback after setback, it becomes more and more relatable. And the characters are so lovable within the story, and they're so relatable that along the way, you begin to feel a part of the party and you buy into the story, so that when things do become over the top, wild, crazy, you're there every step of the way because you're invested in the characters and you're invested in the world and the story. The story itself is a part of the landscape. The landscape design in this game is jaw-dropping. Now, one of my kind of guilty pleasures is that I am a major fan of Godzilla movies. What better idea for a story than to have an amazing JRPG tale essentially happen on the back of Godzilla. That sounds like a win-win to me. And it is. You are so invested in the story, but the vistas and the views of the Titans in the distance, the Mechonis, the Bionis, you see them towering before you. And it's always a slight hint of looming fear, of looming dread, that you know eventually something has to happen. That this giant in the distance, eventually we're going to have to deal with it. Eventually it's going to come. And that's something that's so relatable. A lot of us in life are facing so many trials, so many different oppositions in our life, to where we know eventually it's going to come to a head. But Xenoblade works that into the landscape design, so every place and every location you go to, it's a reminder of the story and the world that you're involved with, and it's masterfully done. The combat of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition absolutely continues this genre tradition of having extremely unique and extremely engaging combat. I come from a background of having played MMORPGs almost exclusively for about 15 years, from about my senior year in high school all the way up until I had a fallout with Blizzard, which will be a video for another time, where I played World of Warcraft, and then I switched over to Final Fantasy XIV and played that almost exclusively, with the exception of a few major releases along the way. That was my background. And in MMORPGs, they're all, well, most of them are kind of identified by what I would call the gaming holy trinity of combat: tanks, healers, and DPS. Tanks are the characters who get the boss's attention or the monster's attention, and they get hit in the face. The healers heal the damage that has been happening to the group, to the tank who is taking the damage. And then there's the DPS, or damage per second, and they're the person who eventually will be doing the most damage per second to help kill the boss in a timely manner before they kill the tank and then the rest of the group. This is kind of the archetype that kind of typified all of my gaming experiences for 15 years. So coming from that and going to Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is an easy transition. I mean, it just was almost like a step-for-step move, because Xenoblade plays like an MMORPG, just without the online factors. And if you're somebody who can get burned out really easily about griefing online, this or that, but you really like that style and that kind of format to questing, you pick up a quest, you go and you kill the monsters for said quest, or you find the item and bring it back for a reward and experience, and then Xenoblade is the perfect stepgap into a more single-player experience, but feeling absolutely a fulfilling game. Xenoblade does not overstay its welcome, and it is a long stay, obviously. But when you play an MMORPG, you know, you are saddling up for hours and hours of grinding and experience, raiding, this or that. But Xenoblade comes at the convenience and ease on the Switch of being able to pick it up and put it down whenever you want. And as somebody who is a gaming father with a bad case of insomnia, I play at night when everybody's asleep. So with Xenoblade, you know, I can put in an hour here or there, and it's an enjoyable experience. If I don't necessarily want to continue the main quest and I want to gear up my people, I'll go out with, you know, Rhine taking the damage for the group, and Shulk doing the damage and kind of spot filling here and there, and Sharla keeping people healed. And, you know, I mean, there's obviously different party combinations, but I don't want to spoil anything. But what's cool about Xenoblade is it offers the depth of combat to where you can switch in and out people, to where you maybe have 2 or 3 tanks and you just do a burn group, or you do a topple mechanic. And what I really love in this game is the topple feature is where, you know, you have one character who can essentially break a target and they'll essentially lower their defenses. You have another person who topples the person over and they'll topple over. And then you can either, you know, continue to do more damage, stun lock them. There's such a wide depth to strategy in this. And though I did not fight every major world boss in the game, I did in Xenoblade 2, but not, unfortunately, in Xenoblade Chronicles. you can go into a fight where the odds are not in your favor, but if you can stack your group in a way to work around your weaknesses, that's absolutely doable in this game. So it has a very high skill ceiling, and it rewards study and it rewards hard work, which is what I want from a combat system. I want it to be approachable, which was a common complaint about Xenoblade 2, is that the combat was not really approachable because it was a lot more in-depth and kind of harder to approach, even though I do love Xenoblade 2's combat a lot. But Xenoblade 1 is extremely approachable, and it's very easy to pick up and go with. And what I really love is that in this game, Shulk carries the Monado, and there is specific abilities that the Monado can do. And the Monado is essentially like Excalibur. You know, it's Link's Master Sword. And I'm always a sucker for those kind of amazing epic tales and adventures. But the Monado has certain skills you can do to where if you have a boss who is about to one-shot a group party member, the Monado can let you glimpse the future and then prepare for that move, and you know, whether that be putting a shield on everybody, or you can topple the target and try to break the future so it doesn't happen. It's just an extremely rewarding and amazing experience. And what is awesome is I cannot recommend this combat system enough to somebody who is coming from an MMORPG background, or anybody who's just a fan of action RPGs, because there's always something to be doing in the game, which is really fun, because there are positional abilities, which means the position of your character in relation to where the boss is can give an added effect to the ability. So if you're on the flank or the side of an enemy, the ability may lower their defenses. Or if you're behind the target, it can be almost like a backstab ability to where it'll do some damage if you hit them from the side, but it'll do a lot more damage if you attack them from behind. And what that does is every boss fight, every boss room, you're always trying to be aware of where your character's at, positional awareness. It makes combat interesting, and it's always rewarding. Cannot recommend it enough. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I had a blast making it. Xenoblade was such an amazing game to play. There's so many more games out there I haven't checked out yet that I would love to. If you know of a game series you think I would like, please leave it down in the comments. I'd love to check it out, and if I do, I will make sure to mention your name in the video about it. Like this video if you liked it, and I can't wait to hang out with you guys next time.